We live in a society that can't survive without technology. If we took the cell phone or computer away from any of these students, they'd probably have a meltdown and not be able to function proper. We rely on technology in this day and age. But what if you grew up without any technology? Seniors lived in a time that didn't have any of these modern conveniences.
This is the perfect family scene when Mom, Dad, and Junior all want to hear the same radio program.
So how are they adapting and embracing technology in their everyday life? Marilyn Nickerson grew up in the 1940s and had to do all of her homework in the evening by candlelight because she had no electricity in her home.
Yeah, we didn't have any electricity until I was in grade 11, and we didn't even have a telephone. I had to go to the neighbors up the road to make a telephone call.
A lot has changed since then. Not only does she have her landline phone, but she has a cell phone and even a computer.
I do use the internet. I get emails. I can only do a few things. I'm quite illiterate when it comes to that computer, but I can do emails and I can get on Facebook, although I don't do a whole lot on it.
The convenience of the internet and social media has helped Nickerson keep in touch with a friend she's had for 62 years.
Oh, I started writing to my pen pal in Australia in 1955, and we've been corresponding ever since. We were both in Girl Guides, and we needed to have a pen pal in order to get a certain badge. And I requested one from Australia, and she requested one from Canada, and this is my pen pal Jennifer from Australia, and this is her husband Horst.
A lot has changed in the way we receive messages. You don't have to wait for snail mail anymore.
I write to her through email or on Facebook, so we get our conversations back and forth much more quickly. Used to take about a month for a letter to get there.
Texting, on the other hand, is not one of her favorite ways to communicate with her friends and family. She finds it more personal to talk to someone on the phone.
It's easier. Make too many mistakes this way. But sometimes the phone itself changes the words on me.
With the help of her notebook, she's been able to keep track of how to do a lot of different things with technology.
And it is overwhelming sometimes because I haven't been able to keep up with all of it. But I'm satisfied with what I have learned.
Without question or fail, the largest concern for most seniors purchasing electronics is ease of use.
Malcolm Angus works for Cox Electronics. He said seniors are looking for tech they can keep up with.
They essentially buy everything that you would expect anybody else to buy. It's just their focus is always on ease of use and maybe less on, high-end picture quality or high-end, audio quality.
Angus says Apple products are popular with seniors.
A lot of their family members probably have iOS devices because, again, they're very popular with the younger crowds as well. So they trend towards devices where their family can help them kind of learn the ropes.
Family influence is playing a role in how many seniors are buying cell phones.
Generally, when we have a first-time cellular buyer in the store, it's almost always because, their daughter or their son would feel more comfortable if they had access to a phone to make emergency phone calls when they're in their vehicle or when they're out and about. But yeah, I think at this point, no matter what your age group is, cell phones have become an absolutely integral part of society.
And not just cell phones. Former teacher Stephanie Bishop was forced to adapt because computers were becoming an integral part of her job.
When I was teaching, we would do our lesson plans on the computer. And we would do maybe, you would look up, but you didn't do lessons per se or whatever. But now the computer, I think, is their right hand, basically. They do everything on their computers.
But she didn't always like using computers.
Some of the teachers were starting doing their report cards on computer. And they were having to go back to school if they didn't have a certain computer at home or a program at home, and oftentimes it wasn't working and everything. So I was one that said, I am writing out my report cards. When they buy me a computer, I'll do it on a computer. Well, guess what? 2 years before I retired, they bought me a computer. Not just me, all the teachers. So then I had to learn to do the report cards on the computer. And I will say, after I did it a couple of times, it was easier than writing them out by hand. Yeah. So I will admit that. It was easier.
One thing Bishop finds different in classrooms now are smartboards. Smartboards are teaching tools, where images are projected onto the screen and you can interact with them. Teachers are using these more and more to educate their students. Bishop had an interesting experience while supply teaching one day.
Smartboard, one of the other teachers set the smartboard up for me, and we were doing something, and I put the pen down, and then the smartboard wouldn't work. And I kept trying to get it to work, and I said, it won't work. Well, this little kindergarten child, who would be 4 or 5 years old, said, you put the pen in the wrong place. It has to be there. So I said, oh, sorry. So I put the pen in the right place, and it worked. Fast forward 3 or 4 minutes, and I needed to erase something, so I erased it out, put it down, wouldn't work again. I looked at this child, and I said, is it in the wrong place? Yes. So I had to put it in the right place. And that was only about 3 years ago, so there we go.
For St. Thomas Journalism, I'm Cody Peters.